Hi, my name is Leah, and in this video I will tell about my travel I did after receiving a travel grant from Schwarzkopf Foundation. My aim was to explore resilience in nature by going to zoos and botanical gardens in different countries. I didn't have many issues. Most trains were on time, except maybe some delays. For example, train to Osnabrück to Hangzhou, or maybe when I needed a seat reservation from Brussels to Paris, I had some issues. I went to the botanical garden of University of Utrecht, where there are almost 10,000 plant species from every corner of the globe. Although I saw a huge biodiversity, I still bear in my mind that it's because in botanical garden plants can be collected from all around the world, and there won't be such a big biodiversity in native environments, which is a bit sad. I learned about many adaptations and resilience. For example, this mottled Dutchman's pipe, which has an unpleasant smell, but it uses this smell to attract flies as pollinators. I saw these huge horsetails, which do not have green leaves to photosynthesize with, but they have green branches. To survive in shadow, plants need to be resilient, and for that, they have many adaptations like large leaves, thin leaves, leaf arrangement with minimal overlap, and specific colors, which I also observed in plants in botanical garden. Then these plants are storing extra nutrients, or this plant which has an interesting shape specifically for a specific pollinator. I also had a chance to see pitcher plants which are shaped as a toilet for small mammals and get nitrogen from feces. In Butterfly House, I saw this one hiding his bright colors to mask. There is also this thistle which uses hooks to use help of animals to spread out. And then there are also plants adapted for water, like coconut tree. There's also this evolution garden opened only in June 2025, where it's possible to observe how plants have evolved during the millions of years to become more resilient. In Insect Meadow, I learned that biodiversity decreases and fruit trees that have been typical for the region for centuries are becoming scarce nowadays. Even geese in Netherlands are adapted to live in a city instead of fields in the countryside. I also visited the Utrecht University Museum, where I learned about sunderpangolins. They use keratinous scales to protect against predators and defend against insect bites, or wild boars, who have tough, bristly skin, which often offers protection. And taking mud baths helps to get free from parasites. Sawfish use their rostrum to disable and catch prey, but also to defend against attack. So, and they have adapted scales for this. Or this example where young plants are living on the mother plant, or huge leaves that maximize photosynthesis. I visited Antwerp Zoo, where I saw many different animal species, each with the unique adaptations. In Antwerp Zoo, they have special program for okapi conservation. Although okapi and giraffes are in the same family, I observed that they have different patterns, and giraffes are adapted to their environment with their long necks. There were even rhinos in the zoo, which is an endangered species, and that shows the important role of zoos in protecting natural resilience. As you see, this bird has no feathers on his head. That's because it eats carrion, and it's more hygienic without feathers. I had a walk in nature reserve. Groot-Mollsburg Nature Reserve has an area of approximately 122 hectares, and there's a marshy plain, wide reed beds, natural meadows, alder swamps, river dunes, and expansive ponds. It offers ideal habitats for many unique plants and animals, like wild rabbits, kingfishers, black-headed gulls, black-necked grebe, pochard, shoveler, and others. Some freshwater sponges have been found here, and it's a home to several families of Europe's largest rodent, the European beaver. In Botanic Garden Mesa, I learned that humans can't live without plants. We eat them, we use them to build houses, to brighten up our rooms, to make ourselves smell good. They are of crucial importance for our health. They provide us with clothing. But this natural wealth is under pressure. An estimated one-third of all plant species on the planet are endangered. That's why botanical gardens such as Mesa Botanic Garden are of vital importance. They preserve the diversity in plant species via collections, seed bank, and research programs with international partners. The Botanic Garden is set in beautiful grounds of 92 hectares where no fewer than 20,000 species from all over the world grow and bloom. They really highlight the importance of plants in our lives by displaying edible plants in culinary garden or plants that are used in perfumes and dyes or to flavor food and drink in scents and colors garden. In the Green Arc, I really saw the importance of conservation that Botanic Garden does. In a giant greenhouse complex, there's a heaven for endangered plant species from around the world. Especially sad was to see these graves for species that have become extinct, like 571 plant species have gone extinct in the last 250 years. Conservation is especially important in cases like plant Franklina alatamaha, which is extinct in the wild and exists only in botanical gardens. Mesa Botanic Garden collaborates with other botanical gardens, and its speciality is keeping euphorbia species. It keeps more than half of all euphorbia species considered vulnerable. And here it's possible to see how many species are in IUCN list as either vulnerable, critically endangered, or other endangered category. Lotus maculatus is only found on the Canary Island, and nowadays, thanks to grazing goats and cattle, they can only be found on inaccessible rocks. The species is well represented in botanical collections, however, it's far from certain that it can be saved. Scientists are investigating whether these collections are genetically diverse enough to survive long term. And it was especially cool to read how Mesa Botanic Garden works also as a research institute. For example, they conduct research into wild bananas and their genetic diversity so we can still be able to enjoy them in 2050. I also visited the huge greenhouse complex where there are sections for different ecosystems. And I was able to see the differences in biodiversity between these ecosystems. In the same time, I found resilience examples like vines, which find light by climbing up other plants, or bromeliads, which grow on treetops and catch organic material in their leaf rosettes. Rhipsalis batzifera is a cactus which lives in rainforests and thrives there because it can store moisture. Orchids have aerial roots which they use to extract nutrients and water directly from the air. They can store the water in their thick leaves or in pseudobulbs, outgrowths from their stems. Unfortunately, unspoiled nature doesn't exist nowadays. And again, I saw that we need to protect natural resilience because 3/4 of the world's population is dependent on medicinal plants. For example, medication against malaria is made from the bark of cinchona trees, the Madagascar periwinkle is used for treatments of leukemia. The prayer plant survives on the forest floor because it can photosynthesize with far red light, something that most plants cannot do. In Paris, I learned about one strategy how to protect biodiversity, and it's very necessary because it's related to natural resilience. And their solution is parks. There are more than 500 parks and gardens in Paris, and about 3,400 species of fungi, animals, and plants. Buttes Chaumont and Petite Ceinture, some places I visited, are one of the largest cities' ecological corridors, which ensure species mobility and work as biodiversity reservoirs. We've talked a lot about plants, but also animals have adapted to their environment. For example, here are the skulls of different animals showing how they adapt to their food and eating style. I visited European's molecular biology laboratory where I learned about research in ecology, which could help harness the resilience found in nature, as well as environmental changes. And I saw the World of Molecular Biology exhibit where I learned that ecology can be studied on different levels. Even molecular level can help us to understand natural resilience, adaptations, and the environment. I was really surprised to see parrots in Heidelberg. That also shows resilience, how these birds, which come from tropical places, have adapted to live here. In an unexpected place, I saw biodiversity of birds. So in Nuremberg Palace, I saw geese, heron, Eurasian coot. And what's interesting, I saw it in many places in many countries, also showing how this bird can adapt to different environments and other birds. I visited the Botanical Garden Munich Nuremberg, which covers an area of 21 hectares and contributes to the fundamental understanding of plant evolution. Epiphytes cling to the surface of the bark or take root in the patches of moss and thin deposits of humus that develop on the branches. I also performed an interview in the Botanical Garden. In Vienna, I visited the Natural History Museum Vienna, which is one of the largest natural history museums in the world. And some collections form the basis for the research of more than 60 scientists. Hard parts of trilobites and other Cambrian arthropods resemble medieval armor in that they form an outer protective cover, and that's an example how we can harness natural resilience to our resilience. During Ordovician and Silurian times, animals already had advanced adaptations. For example, many trilobites developed strikingly broad head shields and large tail shields. Many of them could curl up to protect themselves against predators. When curled up, the lower side was extremely compressed, and they had bizarre spines and horns. Some butterflies are masking masters, like transparent wings in some butterflies, but for others, they have eye spots for scaring enemies, or bark-like pattern. Bionics is a term applied to technical solutions drawn from nature's solutions. Experiments with the Airbus 340 showed that a shark skin-like foil applied to the surface of the aircraft would reduce fuel consumption by over 2 tons per long-distance flight, and Olympic gold medalists from the turn of the millennium onwards were dragged reducing shark swimsuits. Thanks to its smooth skin and wedge-shaped snout, the sandfish's skin literally swims through the sand, hence its name. The flattened and fringed shovel-like feet help with digging. Animals in deserts have lowered release of water by excretion. The reproduction depends on the food available. I visited a protected area in Timatin Hills. There are some xerophytic and thermophilous species of plants and animals concentrated, and Timatin Hills are extremely rich in thermophilic species of invertebrates. I saw some interesting plant species. I visited a zoo in Zlin, and the biodiversity of birds there was amazing. In Warsaw University's Botanical Garden, I had a chance to see adaptations for growth, defense, pollination, and dispersal. I learned about birds like yellow-winged flycatcher, forest thatch, nuthatch, little-pied woodpecker, common finch. Different species have adapted to harsh environments, making them so resilient, and it's in our own good to harness this resilience for our own resilience by protecting biodiversity, because although, as I said, they are resilient, they have their own limits.